There's only so much screaming the void can take before it starts screaming back.
Why we?
So I figure I'll go first and get as much out as I can before we reach max capacity and I have to rein it in. This does, however, beg the question of why. Why are you screaming into the void, or into your pillow at night, or silently and aggressively miming it in the toilet so people you live with and your neighbors can't hear you? Why are you screaming in the first place? Do you not have functional methods of communication? Do you not have friends? Do you not have stable, healthy, reciprocal relationships? Do you not go to therapy even though you so desperately require it? In short, why, yes, all of the above. However, did you know? But I suppose that's a bit of an oversimplification. Let me break it down for you. Do I have friends? Well, yeah, 4 to be exact. Well, 4-ish, on and off. Do I have stable, healthy, reciprocal relationships with them? That would be a bit of a stretch, but sure. Do I have anyone else, mayhaps family, that I can talk to instead of accosting the void? Yeah. Let's not even go down that rabbit hole. Do I have anyone to talk to, knowing that I will not be judged or misunderstood or ridiculed or interrupted or talked over and have my experiences undermined or belittled by having them compared to bigger or better anecdotes that will make me feel like I have no idea what I'm talking about? Do I have anyone to talk to, knowing that it's a safe space to be myself and I don't constantly have to second guess and hesitate to say what I want to? Do I have anyone to talk to where I don't have to convince them to take me seriously or constantly have to sell what I'm saying to get them to listen to me? Do I have anyone to talk to knowing that I won't feel heavy with regret after speaking to them or left feeling foolish? Why no? No, I don't. Don't get me wrong, that's not a reflection on me, friends, and family at all. Entirely. If anything, it's a reflection of the culmination of my decades of experience with people. I just don't think that the majority of our interactions allow for discussions of deep seated insecurities and fears and emotional exchanges or whatever. Or rather, they're not always about my favorite topic, which just so happens to be me. The downside of having a conversation is sometimes you gotta listen to the other person. And who wants to do that? But it must be said that I don't feel comfortable talking about myself, my dreams, my goals, my feelings, my insecurities, or whatever the fuck else with other people. Especially not my friends, family, or random strangers on the bus. Simply because no one cares. No one cares about what I have to say. No one cares about what I think. And simply put, no one cares about me. And that's okay. I mean, I used to cry myself to sleep about it, only I realized that it was quite hypocritical. I can't say that I care about anyone either, at least not full-fledgedly. I do, however, care enough to listen, care enough to not pass judgment, care enough to understand what it is that they want from me and give it if I can. If they need advice or help, or most often it's just for me to shut the fuck up and listen to them. And I do. It's all I ever seem to do, actually. All of my interactions are born from the condition that I solely be the listener and nothing else. I mean, I'm the silent weirdo on public transport that complete strangers will seek out and talk to about problems that they're having with their partner. I'm the silent weirdo sitting in the corner of the class that people I've met exactly once in passing will seek out and talk to about the fight that they had that morning with their parents. I am the silent fucking weirdo sitting by myself at lunch that people I have exactly one mutual friend with will seek out and talk to about how people they thought were their best friends did something not very best friendly. I suppose the takeaway from this is that I am a silent weirdo / bobblehead. I'm always around, and somehow I'm always a magnet for people who just need someone who listens, I guess. And I try and be that. And I'm not bragging about it because it's literally the least that I can do. Shut the fuck up, listen, and nod. And I'm not resentful of it. I like listening to people. It is sometimes interesting. But also, I like to think that I can do at least this much, that they can trust me and be open with me, and they can derive some kind of comfort or compassion from me, which, let's be honest, is scraping the bottom of the barrel of kindness in the sense of bare fucking minimum. But it's something, I suppose. I'm not exactly patting myself on the back for it. But what I do resent is being restricted and restrained to this role of listener, of mute bobblehead. So much so that it's become deeply rooted in my personality that I only exist to listen and not speak. The only problem is I like speaking, but no one seems to want to listen to me, which was fine for a long time. Okay, well, not really fine. I was repressing a lot of my hurt and anger with being talked over and ignored, and basically being used as a sounding board, if not as a pseudo-therapist, and then promptly being disposed of soon after they're done with me. Because the thing about a sounding board is, it's not supposed to talk back. And whenever I did, I was suddenly violating the terms of this temporary relationship. I was merely there to listen, not for me to talk or be heard. And this, for obvious reasons, is hurtful because not only do I like speaking, but I desperately wanted to be heard. To say something and to have someone hear me and understand me for what I'm saying, and not have to feel lucky or fortunate for the bare minimum of some random person just mutely nodding along to whatever I'm saying. Meanwhile, the whole time I'm speaking, they're just wondering when I'll finish so they can finally speak. I needed to be heard, to be listened to be understood, and not just by the furniture in my room as I enact pretend interactions and conversations with an imaginary friend or interviewer or audience. I mean, this is technically an extension of that, I suppose, but hopefully the words that I'm saying now don't live and die in the same breath as I finish speaking them. But more than that, I also think it's me coming to terms with the fact that I'm being wronged in a way, acknowledging and accepting, even to myself, the hurt and anger and embarrassment, instead of playing it off and repressing how it makes me feel, to be constantly shut down, to be constantly spoken over and ignored, and made to feel like nothing that I ever say will ever matter. Because I merely exist to listen, to entertain, to make a fool out of myself, because that's the only time anyone will ever listen to me. When they deem it worth their time to listen, when I try to make them laugh, or when they're entertained, or when they are rewarded or get something in return for it. They're not listening to me for me. Forget listening. The only time I'm even worth their attention is when I'm putting in considerable time and effort and energy and sacrificing personal sanity and even self-respect sometimes to listen to them, to help them unburden, to help them feel like maybe somehow they matter because someone listened to them. Maybe because, as vain and foolish as it may be, In my head, it constitutes kindness. And I'm hoping someday someone will return the favor and I won't have to feel the way that I do. Invisible, inconsequential. Me. Cellophane, Mr. Cellophane, should have been my name, Mr. Cellophane, 'cause you can look right through me, walk right by me, and never know I'm there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As all things human, I suppose the aforementioned has been the nurture side of the debate, that I have been nurtured to believe through experience and upbringing and reward and punishment that it's better that I don't speak to others about anything to do with me, simply because they don't care or have the time for it, nor do they think that it's important. And when people believe that you never speak anything of consequence or significance for long enough, after a point, you don't. Because eventually, you start believing it too. And now we move on to the nature side of the debate, which brings us to the pressing question of, why am I innately fucked up? I don't know. Could it be that no one in my entire family, extended and across generations, has healthy boundaries or effective communication skills? Could it be that they have all felt unheard and unseen and expendable over lifetimes? Could it be that this feeling of resentment at being overlooked has been passed on to me as a kind of hereditary curse? Or is it again merely an extension of nurture? How I was raised and what I learned from watching the people around me interact with each other and with me. How your words don't mean anything unless it is for the benefit of someone else. How your own words, should they have anything to do with you, will be warped and twisted in an effort to be used against you. How I learned, even as a child, which is probably why I remember it so well, is that your words are nothing more than an annoyance that others are burdened by. So it's better to just stay silent. It's better to rely on no one but yourself. It's better to go unheard than to have your own words thrown back at you to punish you. It's better to suffer in silence than to spread misery and foul the moods and spirits of others. It's better to sit back silently in the back seat of the car and watch the view pass by on the outside than to scream and cry and try to be part of the conversation happening in the front seat. Because no amount of screaming or crying will ever lead to you being heard. And you just end up looking like the annoying as fuck toddler having a complete meltdown and throwing a tantrum in the middle of the store as everyone around you looks at you in disgust and whoever you're crying to continues to pretend like you don't exist. In conclusion, regardless of nature or nurture, I am an introvert, which isn't an entirely all-inclusive description considering that I'm usually the loudest one in the room when around friends, and I'm usually the one with the most ridiculous comeback at the ready, and the one with the self-deprecating joke at hand, and the one with the most unrealistic and wacky suggestions to relieve the tension in the room, and the one making the silly gestures and pulling faces in the spirit of fun. And I guess the underlying truth of it is that almost everything that I say or do when I am not quiet is usually in service of others. And I think the only reason I am how I am, like the personality I have and my self-proclamation of swinging from one extreme of being worryingly introverted to the other extreme of obnoxious class clown, is simply because I haven't been able to or allowed to express what I really want to. Whoever I am right now is just a result or a consequence of other people's behavior towards me. And I've crafted my personality to fulfill their needs and expectations. Like a scum fuck people pleaser. Like, I'm saying I'm an introvert, sure, but is the truth that I am introverted only because no one actually wants to get to know me? And all of my strongest traits are ones that prove most beneficial to other people, which I've been rewarded for repeatedly, and now they've become my entire personality and identity to be in service of others. And without it, I'm lost and out of place and disposable.